This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for Car Talk with Katie the Carlady.
Hi!
How are
Yay! Here
you?
we are again. Car Talk with Katie the Carlady. It's good to see you. How are you faring through COVID-19?
Well, COVID-19 has struck again. I don't know if you heard, but we all have to wear masks all the time now in Summit County too.
Yep, it
Not
is
just
mandated. And I can't say enough. I posted today a little video. It was an interview with Tom Hanks. And basically, what he talked about was, let's just all do our part, right? And that's so simple. He said, doing our part is wearing a mask, washing our hands, right? And, being safe, like keeping social distance. It's not that hard to do. And we could really end this so much quicker. So, what if I can give a tip out to our listeners today? It's do your part, do your part. It's so small. It's not even, you don't even have to pay to do your part. It doesn't even cost you anything. And it's an act of kindness,
absolutely.
so, but yeah, here we are. We're faring. The car business has been booming. And which, if you would have told me when we shut down for 5.5 weeks that would have happened, I would have said, no way. But it is. We have been, production has been a little down because they stopped it. Now it's starting to get back up. So I just want to say, those of you who think, oh my God, this is the best time to go get a car, there's pros and cons to that. And I know I've reiterated that a few times, but I'm telling you, dealerships have stayed busy in Ohio because Ohio dealerships stayed open where other states didn't.
Right.
So it's been an interesting couple months, but we are, following the process, following directions, respecting our, consumers' space, and making sure everything is done the way it's supposed, like our governor tells us to. But I am Katie O'Toole Smith, Katie the Carlady, been advocating and empowering consumers and educating consumers for 26 plus years. I love what I do. You can find me at katiethecarlady.com. You can always find me on Facebook at Katie the Carlady and my Instagram. I'm always love to interact with consumers. If you have questions, I love to answer them. I believe that knowledge is power and it doesn't cost a dime. So, I was talking to you, Karen. I want to do a few, sometimes people tell me, hey, I'd love some just shorter podcasts where I could just get some information in and listen and learn some things and get out. Cause sometimes, we have really great conversations, but they last longer.
Right.
So I thought, what is something right now that I could talk about that would be 5 tips that could help our people who listen, but are things that people need. If you're somebody who leases cars, this is something you will need all the time. And so what I thought was, what are the 5 tips that I can give you, the best 5 tips I can give you for when you're coming to lease end?
Okay.
And the reason this came up was because I know if there's many of you out there that lease, COVID caused people to panic. Their leases were all coming up. They didn't know what to do. They were freaking out and they're like, oh my God, I don't want to go into a dealer. Oh my gosh, I'm not ready to make a decision. Oh my gosh, they don't have the cars I want because they're not producing. So what I found was we were telling a lot of people to extend their leases. So the one of the first tips, and this goes for during this time period and anytime, because this is always an option. But one of the first tips I wanted to share with you is that you always have an option to extend your lease. That is something, it gives you freedom. You call the manufacturer. If you don't call the dealer, you call the manufacturer. They will extend up to 6 months. So Honda will do up to a year, but they'll extend up to 6 months. They give you the miles that go with that. And the only thing you'll pay, which is a small amount, is the taxes, because when you extend your lease, that amount of money that was a part of your residual was not taxed at the original contract, during the original contract. So it's a small amount. It's not a lot. But if in doubt, you can extend up to that time period. But here's the beautiful part. You can get out at any time with no penalty because that's an extension. So if you're feeling concerned, if you're not sure what to do, if you can't make up your mind on a car, if your lease is coming up during a time when there's a model year switch, or you're going to be traveling, or you don't want to buy a car in the middle of winter, or whatever that is, you can call the manufacturer. And this is what that looks like. You look on your statement that you get from the like, if you get a statement. Now, some people go paperless now and it's all online. You can look there as well. Or our best friend Google, you can Google end of lease and the number for your manufacturer, whether it's Hyundai, Honda, whoever it is. They call them and do it. They will do it. It's not a problem. The only time they might not do it is if you have filed bankruptcy in between the time when you had the lease. That's only one. Sometimes they won't do it, but try if you need to. Because I do tell people, if you're going through a difficult financial situation and you need that time to build up, like, a lot of people lost their jobs and a lot of people go through tough times. Guess why? Because life happens. So one of the cool things that I found was you could basically oh my gosh, my brain just went dead. I was in full sentence. What was I saying, Karen?
You were talking about extending the lease.
Extending the lease, but I was saying something oh, if you're going through a financial difficulty and you need to develop some payment history, that's a good time to extend the lease also, because the farther you are from that difficulty in payments, showing good payment history, your score will go up. So I just want to put that out there. That's the first thing. I would say always exercise it if you need it. It's always an option. And the other thing that it does for you is those payments come off your residual. So you are actually paying it down under what the buyout value was. So when in doubt, not sure what to do, freaking out, oh my gosh, I can't make a decision. They're going to make a major model change, whatever that is, you can extend your lease. And most will do up to 6 months, most manufacturers, some will do up to a year. But there's no penalty to do it. And I just think I've learned so many people during this time didn't know that was an option for them to do. So I wanted to say that. So that was the first one. And that ties into some of these other tips, being this. My second tip at end of lease is always, 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 always get an inspection. So an inspection will always protect you and the manufacturer. Here's why. You have people say, "Oh no, my car looks perfect. It's perfect. It's like brand new. It doesn't even have a lot of miles on it." That doesn't matter what your perception is. It has to be the perception of that inspector. And so basically what I would say is get it inspected. Again, Google end of lease inspection number. A lot of times it's a third party. But here's the cool part. They come out to your house. It doesn't cost a dime. You do it, they give you a report. And here's the other reason why it's important to do that. And you don't do it the day before your lease is up. Here's why. You have options. If you do have damage on your car and you want to get it before you go putting in an insurance claim, before you go spending a ton of money to fix it, find out what that manufacturer is going to charge you, because sometimes they will charge a lot less than what your insurance company will charge, or a body shop, or whatever. So that's the first thing that's really super important about that. The second thing it does is, like I said, you might be able to get done cheaper. The second thing it does is, so a lot of these leases have a damage waiver at the end. Not everybody knows that. I had somebody, they're like, "Oh my God, really? Subaru has $1,000 damage waiver?" Yes, it does. Honda has a 500. If you stay with Honda, they make it up to 1,000. Nissan has 500. Mazda used to have some, but guess what? Mazda's financials just became Toyota, which people didn't even. It's interesting how things are changing in the automotive finance world. But that is so I'm telling you, when people tell me they don't want to do it, let's say your car has a stain on it and you're like, "Oh my God, I got to pay money. I got to get this thing removed." They're going to do this. Let them inspect it. They may not even charge you for it. They may say it's average wear and tear. oh my God, I have to get new tires. They're telling me, the guy at the dealership is telling me I need new tires. Before you pay money for those tires, if you're close to lease end, get it inspected because it may pass the turn in, it may pass the inspection. And so, what it allows you to do is to find out how to not spend money you don't have to as end of lease comes. And the one other thing about end of lease is that there's very few, maybe two manufacturers, but all of them have a turn in fee or a disposition fee. People are always shocked when I tell them this, but it's in your contract. You are contractually obligated to that. Um, and the only way that you can usually get around that is by either staying with that manufacturer, selling it and wholesaling it, which will go into my next tip, which I'm leading right into, or buying it. You will not pay that disposition fee. So get it inspected. It doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't cost you anything. And I'm telling you, it will protect you and it protects the manufacturer. If you drop that car off and you've had an inspection and it gets damaged while it's on that lot, you've had your inspection, you're free and clear. So that happens. I've seen it. And then my customer has gotten a bill for $2,000 and they didn't do it. So just please, please, please. So step 2, get it inspected. Yeah, tip 2. Tip 3 is, this is going to lead right into from that second tip, is that make sure find out what the value is of your car. So what people don't realize is some manufacturers, not all of them, but some of them, they set their residuals at a certain point. Well, their resale is so high and they hold their value, the car holds their value so strong that that car is worth more than what more than the residual. Now, this isn't all the time, but I'm saying check it out and make sure. And you can do things like take it to a dealer. You don't have to tell them it's a lease. Just take it to a dealer and get some values. Take it to a couple places and find out what the value is, what it is worth. I do this for people all the time. And I say, okay, here's your residual. Here's what it's worth. What's the difference? So the other way that could benefit you is if you're over mileage by a lot and you're going to have to pay that mileage. You can usually negotiate some bills, some charges when they come in. You can't negotiate mileage. You agreed, you drove over, that's it. They don't negotiate that. So if your mileage charge is going to be $2,000, but we can wholesale the car and it's only going to cost you $1,000, well then wholesale the car and it'll cost you half of what your mileage is. People don't realize they have options because they think it's a leased car and they can't do anything. That is not true. You have options and you should exercise them. And there's a lot of good websites out there too that give some great tips on navigating this kind of stuff. But, again, okay. The other thing is people always throw their contract, do that. You're going to need it in 3 years because you're going to want to reference what was my buyout. That lease turn-in fee was contractual. I don't believe you. Look at your contract. So even if you stick it in a folder and label it, just keep it. You're going to need it later. Or scan it and put it in a file on your computer. But either way, it's a document you're signing and it's contractual with a bank. If something were to happen, you need to be able to reference that. And that to me was one of the things when I realized that, like Subarus, Hondas, some Toyotas, Nissan usually doesn't have equity, but they have a great loyalty program. And that I would tie in with the equity, finding what your car is worth, because if for some reason you are getting over mileage, check and see if your manufacturer, if you want to stay brand loyal, sometimes they'll waive miles. Sometimes they will they do what they call a pull ahead program, which is they'll waive the payments. So please, please, please don't rush into it and like go to a dealer and say, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to do it today. I'm doing it now. It's the last day of my lease. I'm freaking out. That's when people make emotional financial decisions. Give yourself some time, look around. If there's a car show that comes to your area, like in Cleveland, we have the awesome Cleveland Auto Show. I tell people every year, go, you'll see every car under one roof. So so I would say that's tip 3, because it is so important. Find out the value of your car, compare it against your residual, and look at what your costs are going to be, and can you wholesale it to make that difference, or do you just turn it in, pay the fee, and you got away scot-free because they didn't charge you the $800 for that bump you got at the grocery store. And you know what I mean? So look at that. And you don't have to trust just one person. You can get multiple opinions. In fact, I encourage it, because sometimes when we trust a sales guy year after year after year, I'm not saying don't go to him, but what I am saying is keep him on his toes, because sometimes they get comfortable and they'll just assume you're not going anywhere else. And that's when there's fees and costs and things aren't totally transparent. So just pay attention to that, right? So that's tip 3, finding out your value, and also star asterisk, keep a copy of your lease contract. Even though you think it's not that important, it will be in 3 years. So the next tip I have, which people don't, so let's say you get that bill, right? You get that bill from At Lease Turn In, and you're like, OMG, what do I do now? Right? So the next tip I have is find out, can I fix it for less? Can I fix the damage they're causing me for less? Can I do it for less? So a couple things I'm going to tell you. When you get your car, this is something that you can do at the beginning that helps you on the end. And that's this. They try to sell you all this stuff that costs you a lot of money to protect your seats.
Right.
Go on Amazon. I just did this for a customer, Karen. I said, here's a link. You go on Amazon or walk in. If you want to go to your local hardware store and support local, totally down for that. Get some good Scotch Guard. You can Scotch Guard your seats. It will help you at the end. I promise. It will cost you $10 to $15, and it will help you on the back end. Now, if you forget to do that, or you choose not to, which is totally cool, one of my favorite, when it comes to can you fix it for less, or can you clean it for less, one of the greatest spot cleaners that I have found is OxyClean. Believe it or not, it's laundry cleaner. It is like this miracle stuff. I don't even know what to tell you. So that can get out spots if they're charging you for something. The other thing is, you can find a dent. There's a place called Dent Wizard, or you can look for, we call them Papa Dent, but they can dent places in your area where they don't have to do body work on the whole panel. They'll charge $65 to take out the dings. Right. So look for those things, and maybe detailing your car for $150 is going to save you. That's why it follows into one of the other tips previous is get it inspected, because then when you get to this point, you know exactly what you have to address. People don't think about this when they get the car because they're so excited. I was so excited when I got my Mini Cooper. This was 2 cars ago, and oh my God, I'm so excited. I can't believe this is so great. And I did what I told people not to do. And that was, I talked myself into going less miles than what I drive.
Not a good
Big mistake. Big. It cost me money on the back end.
Yep.
And so that's something that that's something for your front end of your lease, which is for another day, but never rationalize yourself. Miles are always cheaper up front than they are at the end. Just heads up.
Okay.
So that was that. Now, so see if you can get stuff done cheaper and ask around. And one of the best ways I found, and Karen, I know you've seen this as well, is when you have to do that, go on your local marketplace on Facebook, right? Your local groups in your area, and say, hey, I need somebody to do this, and I want to support local, but I got to do this before I turn this car in. And you know you're not going to buy the car. You know the car is not worth what's owed. The residual's way too inflated. You're going to turn it in. So ask out there, and you will be shocked at how many people love to support local and will give you ideas of what to do.
It's
I
terrific.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So that's that. And then my final one is about, this is kind of, so people call me at end of lease and they're like, okay, what do I do? I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Are you going to get a new car? Do you want, and so one of the things that I found is, when you, no matter what you add in on the front end, no matter what extra you want to pay for, which I don't always recommend that, but people do it, no matter what you add in, your residual is always going to come to be the same amount. Okay. But the reason I want to touch on this is because it kind of ties into the beginning, but and the end. So if you choose to buy these extra services, which some people do, they buy the ding and dent, they buy the extra things, the lost key. Okay. And I have customers, they really do lose their keys all the time. But what I'm going to say about that is, make sure, again, we go back to your contract. Do you have that damage waiver? I know these kind of all go together, but do you have that damage waiver that covers a key, tires, ding and dent? And I would ask that at the beginning of the lease versus at the end, because if you know, if they're not going to tell you of a damage waiver if they want to sell you $1,000 plan, right? So pay attention to that. Pay attention to that. That's super important. But the the other thing that when people come to me and they're fearful of turning it in, of going back to the dealership, they're fearful of them shaming them or saying, we're not doing this for you because you didn't get a car. And so here's what I want to say about end of lease turn in that people don't always know. It doesn't have to go back to the dealership you bought it from. As long as it goes to any of dealership that's that manufacturer across the country, but it doesn't have to go back there. And so if you've developed a relationship, so like for our customers, we turn their cars in for them. But if you don't, maybe the guy that you went there and it was a bad experience and you don't want to go back, you can turn it into another dealership as long as it's the same manufacturer.
Okay.
And they usually have a lease turn in process, and you need to make an appointment. You don't just walk in and drop your car off. And so some people get mad about that, but know that ahead of time. So call the dealership and say, I'm planning to turn my car in. And they have someone that will set an appointment up and make sure everything gets done the way it's supposed to. Because you will, like, ahead of time, you're going to get sent in the mail. Don't just throw it away. It's not junk. When they send you that end of lease packet, it's important to look at. It has your odometer statement that you need to turn in with the car that you need to sign. And it'll tell you exactly what's allowed in, your whatever they allow for.
Okay.
That in your contract, it will get, if you turn your car back in and you do not purchase it, wholesale it, trade it in, whatever, it will come in about 30 days. So you don't have to pay it on site. But just know that that bill's coming and you can't negotiate it. So people always, they're like, I'm not paying this. Well, you don't have to pay it. But here, let me tell you what happens if you don't pay that, or you don't pay damages they charge you for. And this is for real. They will charge you for that whole lease and say, you didn't pay the lease. They'll just basically say you didn't follow your contract, and it'll show that you defaulted on that whole lease. So they have a right to do that. They can do that. So don't try to prove a point by not paying for the scratches. I'm serious. People are like, I'm not paying that. They did this. Irrelevant. You signed a contract, right? And so just be thoughtful before you emotionally react.
Absolutely.
Because you're mad because some guy treated you poorly or didn't give you who cares what he did or didn't do? You have to take care of yourself, because when you get a bad rating on your credit report, he doesn't care. So that's another that's for another day, when we talk about people trying to prove their points by not wanting to pay a collection. And we've had Bob Willis on this show talking about credit, and that's one you can listen to previous, where we talked about credit reports, how that is affected, all that good stuff. But lease turn-ins always seem to perplex people, and some people do it, they're used to it. They're used to it. They just turn in. I had a lady who called me and she said, "Oh yeah, I just give them back." I said, "Well, did you ever find out, like, if they're worth more than what you?" "Well, no, I just get another one." I'm like, "Well, you might be leaving money on the table." She goes, "But you can't do that." I said, "Yes, you can." So know that you have the ability to make choices, and if you don't want to stay brand loyal, that's okay too. You don't have to, but just know that you may have that disposition fee on the back end.
Mm.
Unless you wholesale the car or it's worth more. Now, around here, I'll tell people to, if they need to get out early on a lease, I'll tell them to basically go to CarMax. Now, we have CarMax here. I think they're across the country. They pay a lot for late model used cars, more than most. So I tell people, go to CarMax. They'll give you a letter that's good for 7 days, and they'll tell you like what it's worth. And you can choose to do with that what you want. But guess what? You can leave with that letter. It takes about 30 minutes to go through the process. You leave with that letter. It's good for 7 days. It tells you what your car, then you can say, "Oh, what's that residual?" Because you saved your lease contract from 3 years ago, you can compare that. Now, if you're not sure, you can always call the dealer, call the manufacturer. They'll give you the payoff. But I just want to say, we get so excited to be driving a car, and I'm telling you, I'm a car girl. I get it. We forget that in 3 years we're going to have to go through this, and we're going to have to do it again and again and again. And what are our options as a consumer to make educated decisions and not let the dealer drag us through it or pull us through it, and we just follow like a, we just say, "Okay, whatever you say," we drink the Kool-Aid, but we aren't making decisions for ourselves. And so I want to challenge all of you out there to take the time. You get to make decisions. It's your car, it's your contract. You can do that. Nobody has to make decisions for you. Um, and, do your homework. Google is a person's best friend. I mean, for us, when we were growing up, right, it was the card catalog.
Right, exactly.
My kids could care. They're like, "What are you talking about? Card catalog?"
I have
I'm
to
like,
I have to tell you, Katie, because of the podcast and the things that you have shared, Richard and I, we did our homework like you told us to.
good
Um,
girl.
we knew what his payoff was going to be. Now his lease really wasn't going to be up till October, but we'd been paying ahead on it, um, because he figured either would go to his over mileage or something. We
Right,
would
that's a good point.
be prepared. And 2 weeks ago, we went and looked at cars. He thought he was going to change manufacturers. He didn't.
He
Um,
didn't? I'm shocked.
he stayed with his Volkswagen after all.
Okay, what
But one of the things that you was go in and ask what the car that you want, with all the bells and whistles that you want on it, what is that going to cost you? And we knew that they were offering 72 months at 0%. So
Yeah, girl,
everybody figured it out. Okay.
free
So
money.
I knew what that was going to cost. And we knew that he was over miles. So he called Volkswagen themselves. They offered that pre he could buy miles, he could go backwards so that he
Oh,
wouldn't have.
it's cheaper. That's right.
Absolutely. And so we
Good
figured,
for him.
yeah, I mean, we had it all set up. But the interesting part was we walked in and they didn't want to do it my way. And I said, "No, you're going to do it my way or I walk." And they looked at me and they said, "Okay." We found out what that car was going to cost us. I said, "That's fine. Now I have this other car that I have to turn in." Okay. And it's 17,000 miles over. But other than that, it's in really good condition. It looks good. He said, "So what are you telling me?" I said, "I want to walk out just paying for this car." the new car. I don't want anything carried over. I don't want." And he said, "Let me see what I can do." 20 minutes later, we had a brand new car, and it was exactly the way you told me it could be. Now, did you tell me that they wouldn't charge me for some of the things on my other car? No, you didn't say that,
I did
but
not say
they
that.
no, but they didn't. They took our car. I mean, it was easy, but
I
we
love that
knew
you brought that up.
but we knew what we were going in for,
Love that.
and so and they kept saying, "Do you wanna put money down?" And I said, "Why do I wanna put money
It's free
down?"
money. Why?
Okay? I said, "I'm gonna figure out how to make that payment." That's all I have to worry about at this point. So, thank you for all the tips.
I love that. And you know what? You just brought something up I forgot to share. So I love that you brought about the you have this car over here. So if you stay brand loyal, they will. So the dealer has this option, and people don't know this, but the dealer has an option when the car gets grounded. So when you turn that car in and you ground it, they get an option from the manufacturer to buy it at market value, regardless of what the payoff is. They get
Okay,
an option to do that. And so what that does is it makes it so that VW, Nissan, whoever it is, Kia, they don't have to send it to auction and you don't get charged for this. They get these options to do this. So it allows them to negotiate. The other thing is you did it at a time when they're being much more negotiable on the back end right now with COVID. I've had them waive I had a customer who got a $2,000 bill on her Mercedes, and she said their inspection was shut down. They weren't even inspecting cars. What do I do? I said, you call them and you tell them I'm not paying this. You wouldn't even let me inspect it. You gave me no opportunity as a consumer. Now you do owe the turn-in fee because
sure.
you didn't get a Mercedes. But I said, she goes, can I do that? I said, you absolutely can, because they had shut down all their inspection centers. So, first of all, thank you, because what I love is that you listen, and I know our listeners listen. They want to be educated, but they don't want to be talked down to. They don't want somebody to be like, nah, they just want to hear some information that could maybe help them make a better choice out in the world. So I am so serious when I tell our listeners, please give me ideas. If you want me to, I've been reaching out to some people to try to get them on here. I trying to get there's a guy who works for Uber, like he's a big wig in starting Uber. I'm really want to talk about how that changed the industry and what that's like for young people who aren't buying cars, but they're living in Uber. Of course, not right now with COVID, but everything in our lives now is going to be before COVID and
Right.
after COVID, right? For years, it was before 9/11, after 9/11. I know for people who are older, it was before Kennedy, after Kennedy, before the Depression, after we have these life changing things that happen in our lives, and we just mark them, right? And I want to say, anybody out there that's struggling, or if you're having a hard time, or if you're recovering from COVID, or someone on the front lines, I'm sending out big love and peace to you, because I mean, not that I don't do that to everybody, but I know I have customers who are nurses and they're on the front lines, and it's tough. It's tough. And they are really, I have a daughter living in New York City, as you know, and it is a tough time. So I send some big love out to you guys, and if you have questions, please ask. I want to tell you to please like this and share it. We want to try to educate more people as we continue to grow and get new ideas. So please share, tell your friends about it. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Spreaker. Now we're on YouTube. Just Google it and you'll find us. We're there. I mean, I come right up. So, and if you have questions or you want to reach me, you can reach me. You can email me at katie@katiethecarlady.com. You can message me at Katie the Carlady on Facebook, or Katie O'Toole Smith. If you have questions you'd like me to answer, I would love that. I think the other thing I'm thinking about doing, which I'd love your 2 cents on, Karen, is starting to get some consumers to call in or for us to connect with, and they can ask questions about what's going on right now. What are they struggling with in the market right now? What's their dilemma? Because I deal with it every day. And then I come to you and I think, okay, now what's the best way to describe what this woman was talking about? Because it was really important, but it's her own situation.
Sure.
So I really would love that. If you want to reach out, please reach out. But share, tell people about us. Carlady Talk at Katie the Carlady, or with Katie the Carlady. And, we just want to try to keep educating, empowering. Karen and I, that was from the beginning what we wanted to do, was empower people. And so here's at the end of the day, after you listen to this, you don't have to be scared of lease turn in. Even though you're like, oh my God, I'm over my miles. Oh my God, I'm only 2 years in. Oh my God, oh my God. You know what you can do? Pause, exhale, breathe. If you are in your lease and you're 2 years in and you're headed over your miles, at least drive it till you use all your miles. Then figure out what to do. You've paid for those miles, just use it. But you don't have to freak out. There's always options. So I just want to say that, don't stress, don't freak out. You can always reach out to me, but there's always options. We don't have to let financial decisions and financial insecurity crush us. We have options. So that's what I want to say. Please, again, you know how to reach me. I'm always available. I would love to talk to me. If you're interested in coming on the podcast, we'd love to chat with you. So that's what I would say. This week it was like, let's just chat about something that I know could be tangible, useful tips that people could really use in this time of, you know, crazy. And if some people, there's one last thing I'm going to say, and I forgot to say this. If you have a car that you're thinking about ending a lease and going and buying a used car, always look at what your car's worth versus what the residual is, or what the value is, and the residual, because you may have what you're already looking for. And so when you buy a car out, you can't think of it like, I've paid this for 3 years and I'm buying it. I paid a lease, it's up. Now, if I went to go buy this car out in the marketplace, what would it cost?
Sounds
And
like
then you can decide, because sometimes people have what they already want, and you can buy it out and it's been serviced and you know it. And if it's over mileage, you're even ahead of the game, but never buy a car just because it's over mileage. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Well, thanks again, Katie. This was great. And I learned even more today. But like I said, just listening to you and listening to some of your guests, it was
Love
like,
that.
what's the worst thing that can happen? I'm not going to get the deal that I want. Maybe I'll have to go someplace else. So, and we bought the car, by the way. No more leases.
I love that. I love that. And congratulations to your husband I know he was wanting to get a new car, and that's so great. And yeah, that's awesome. That makes me, those are the reasons I do what I do and why I love what I do, is when people say, I learned from something you shared. So that's why, I love it.
Well, at the end of your podcast, what do you always say, Katie? You
Well, I always say, the first thing I want to say is, please be kind, be kind, be kind, be kind. Wear your mask, do your part. One of my readings this week was, tolerance is one of the most beautiful qualities we can share with another human. So what I always end with is, Carlady out.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.